In 1994, a young couple, Marcus and Elena Fisher, moved into an abandoned farmhouse near Black Forest, Germany. The locals warned them, "Don't live there. Families go in and then they disappear." But Marcus just laughed. He dismissed it as superstition and moved right in. At first, everything was quiet, but then around 2:30 a.m. each night, scratching began at the windows, slow, deliberate, like claws across glass. Sometimes there were knocks as if someone were trying to get out. Other times, faint laughter echoed from inside the wardrobe. Then the scratching would stop, and an unnatural silence would fall. A silence so suffocating it pressed against their chests like an invisible weight. When the fear became unbearable, they called for help. And one day, a nanny showed up. She introduced herself as Nora. She wore a gray dress, her hair neatly pinned, and she had a warm smile. But it was a smile that lingered too long, almost frozen, and her eyes never seemed to blink. The villagers hadn't seen her before. She had just appeared. That same night, the scratching stopped. Their daughter, Anna, adored her. Nora hummed lullabies that filled the house, but her songs never paused. Not once did she breathe. Soon, tragedies struck. First, Anna was found near the old stone well. Then their neighbor's son was discovered beneath the oak tree. His neck was broken, and each time Nora was there. Calm, soothing, rocking an empty cradle, setting plates for children who would never eat again. One night, a neighbor, Herr Schneider, claimed he saw her outside. She looked normal until she stepped into the moonlight. Then he noticed from the knees down, her legs bent backward, covered in coarse black hair. Her hooves were clicking softly on the stones. It became clear. She wasn't a nanny. She wasn't human. She was the thing that had scratched at the windows all along, a djinn, patient and smiling even now. Locals whisper that she has left the farmhouse, that she follows the lonely. The man working late in Berlin, the student studying alone in Prague, the traveler walking empty streets in Warsaw. They say if you hear soft hooves behind you and a faint lullaby, don't turn around, because if you do, she's there. Smiling, waiting, watching, always waiting. This happened in a quiet little town in Vermont, the kind of town where everyone knows everyone else, and the streets are empty by 10 p.m. She says it's the kind of story you hear late at night when the wind rattles the windows, and you can almost convince yourself it's only the wind. There was a woman who had lived in town for years, poor and quiet, beaten down by her husband. Everyone knew she had no one to protect her, no one to stand up for her. One night she went out to buy groceries with the few coins they had, but she dropped them on the street. When she got home, her husband yelled at her, cruel words cutting sharper than any knife. He told her to go back and find that money. She did. She walked the streets, head down, searching for the coins she had already lost. And that's when fate struck. A cart came around the corner too fast and she was gone. Dead, lying alone on the cobblestones. But death didn't let her stay. People started seeing her at night. First a shadow, then a figure. Long hair falling over her face, a thin dress moving with the breeze, always looking down, always searching. And those who saw her say the worst part was her eyes. Bright, too bright, glowing almost, like lanterns hidden inside her skull. She tries to hide them with her hair, Emily says. But if you peek, if you even glance too long, she notices. She thinks you took her money. The first time she follows someone, it's subtle, just a shadow at the end of the street. Your own footsteps echo, but hers are quiet. Tap, tap, tap. Every time you stop, she stops. Every time you turn, she's still behind you, waiting. You convince yourself it's your imagination. The town has long stretches of empty streets and shadows can play tricks, but she doesn't make mistakes. Then she reaches the house. And that's when the horror begins. She doesn't just hurt the one who looked. She doesn't just scare them. Emily says she goes inside, slowly, methodically, from room to room. parents, siblings, anyone under the same roof. No one hears a struggle. No one screams. There's only the softest shuffle of feet on the floor, the hush that falls when the living are no longer breathing. In the morning, the house is empty. The only evidence she was ever there is strands of her black hair scattered on the floor and a few coins lying in odd places, glinting faintly as if mocking the living. People in town whisper that she's still searching, still wandering, still looking for the money that was lost decades ago. But some say she's searching for more than just the coins. This terrifying tale comes from a place called Ban Phai, a village nestled in the mountains of northern Thailand. It's a beautiful spot, peaceful and serene. That is until the sun goes down. Because after dark, the villagers say it is a place where the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest, where malevolent spirits known as the Nomar can slip through and take their revenge. It all starts as the sun dips below the horizon. That's when the Nomar begin their nightly ritual. They drift through the village, taking the shapes of people the villagers know and love. Sometimes it's a neighbor, sometimes a friend, and sometimes even a relative. They mimic their voices too, calling out to the villagers, asking them to open the door. But if the villagers open the door, they will be inviting in a demon. For the Nomar are not human. They are malevolent spirits that have been trapped in the netherworld, unable to move on because they have unfinished business in this world. And they are angry. Oh, so angry. They lash out at the living by possessing their loved ones, turning them into vessels for their dark energy. Then they wander the night, preying on the living, causing them harm, spreading misery and despair. The only way to know that the Nomar is not a human is that if they lose their patience, which can take hours, they start to salivate and their eyes glisten strangely. But if the villagers let them in, even just once, well, then there is no escape. The Nomar will devour the entire house, every single person inside. Nothing will be left. The villagers have no choice but to hide from these demons. They lock themselves inside their homes and wait until dawn, hoping that the Nomar will pass them by. But sometimes the demons choose their houses, and sometimes the voices can be too much, the temptation to open the door almost overwhelming. But the villagers know that if they do, they might just be inviting their doom. Because once the Nomar gets inside, they feast on the living, draining them of their life force, and leaving behind only empty shells. So if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, remember the tale of the Nomar and never invite them in. For they are demons, and your home is their hunting ground. They say the scariest monsters are the ones that are real. And this story is one of the scariest I've ever heard. In 1986, a young couple moved into an old farmhouse in Salem, Massachusetts. They were excited to start a family in their new home, but soon strange things began to happen. Every night they could hear whispers in the vents, footsteps in the empty halls, and sometimes the sound of a rocking chair on the porch even though it was always empty. They tried to ignore it, but then the nightmares began. One day, the wife got up from her rocking chair and walked into the bathroom. As she looked into the mirror, she saw the face of a little girl staring back at her, but the girl had no eyes. The wife screamed and fell to the floor. When she looked back up, the girl was gone. This happened again and again, always when she was sitting in the rocking chair. Convinced it was more than just a coincidence, they called a priest to come and bless their home. He arrived with holy water, prayers, and a crucifix. As he walked through the house, the walls groaned and the shadows on the floor twisted. For a moment, it seemed like the blessing was working. The rocking chair stopped moving on its own, and the whispering in the vents slowly faded away. But then the spirit revealed itself. It didn't leave. It entered the priest. His eyes rolled back in his head and he screamed as his own body tore apart. Blood poured out of him, soaking the nursery floor. The thing that had possessed him laughed, a sound that echoed through the house like a twisted lullaby. Then it slipped back into the walls and everything went silent. By morning, The couple packed what little they could and fled. They never looked back. They say that no children have ever been born in that house, and if you walk past it at night, you can still hear the lullaby drifting through the vents. Now, I don't know about you, but that story really creeps me out. In a village nestled between rolling hills and a sparkling lake, there lived a woman named Alara. Some people say she used to possess babies. Others say she was just a babysitter. Now, Alara loved children more than anything in the world, but life had been cruel to her. You see, her husband never wanted her to have children. Some said it was because she was not considered beautiful, while others whispered it was because he could not afford a family. But the truth of the matter is, nobody really knows. All we know is that she never had a child of her own, and the longing in her heart grew unbearable. Every day she would watch other women with their children, care for them, dream of a baby she could never hold. Her health slowly began to deteriorate, and she grew weaker with each passing day. Eventually she died, heartbroken, lonely, and full of desire for the life she could never have. But death did not silence her love. One night, a baby was left crying in the village. Alara appeared before him, rocking and soothing him until he fell asleep. She tucked him in, tidied the mess, and arranged the blankets. And as the first rays of sunlight peeked through the window, she vanished. The parents, upon seeing their sleeping baby in the clean house, were deeply touched by the mysterious babysitter who had come to their aid. As days turned into weeks, the villagers started noticing a pattern. Whenever a baby was left crying, Alara would appear, calming the child and taking care of all the mess. Her pale and sorrowful face became a familiar sight, but she was never seen during the day. She was a ghost, a spirit that roamed the village at night, helping out in the only way she knew how. Some villagers believed that she possessed the children for a moment, singing lullabies only they could hear. Others claimed she was just a kind-hearted ghost who wanted to help. But one thing was certain: she was a blessing to the parents who had no one to watch their babies. One night, Alara appeared before an old couple whose granddaughter was crying. The couple, too old to rock and soothe the baby, could only watch in awe as Alara magically made the baby fall asleep. When the old woman tried to thank her, Alara vanished, leaving behind a faint whisper. "Don't thank me. I am just doing what I was always meant to do. I am here because I love children and I want to help." And so, Alara, the spirit babysitter, continued to watch over the children of the village, bringing them peace and parents, sweet dreams, a small price to pay for the love she was denied in life. Some say you can encounter him late at night, when the streets are empty and the air is heavy with silence. A young boy appears suddenly, tapping on your shoulder. "Excuse me, can you help me? My mom is just around the corner," he whispers. You glance to where he points, but there is nothing there. The corner is empty. You haven't seen anyone pass by. All he wants are directions. But you must not talk to him, because if you give him instructions, he will keep following you, asking for confirmation at every step. Did I turn the right way? Am I close? And each time you think it's over, he disappears, but only to reappear the next night, in the same place, asking again, "Excuse me, can you help me? My mom is just around the corner." With every night that passes, his voice grows more desperate. "I can't find my mom," he says. And soon, it is not just directions he demands her. "You have her now, don't you? My mom, she's with you, isn't she?" The villagers whisper that the boy was never truly lost. Some say he died long ago, searching for a mother he never had. And anyone who tries to help him becomes part of his endless search. He will keep appearing, night after night, following you home in silence, until the directions are no longer enough. So if you walk alone in the dark, and a young boy taps on your shoulder asking for directions, do not speak. Do not help. Just keep walking. Because once you guide him, He will never leave. It started like every other Friday night adventure. 6 friends, seniors in high school, crammed into an old van. Music, laughter, the thrill of being young and reckless. Someone had whispered about a party. Big house, no parents, free drinks. None of them knew exactly who was hosting, but that was part of the excitement. On the way, they stopped at a lonely gas station. The clerk, tired eyes and a trembling voice, asked them, "You kids sure you're all together? Looks like one of your friends is still outside." They laughed it off. There was no 7th friend, or so they thought. By the time they reached the house, it was already too strange. No other cars, no other kids. Just the old house glowing faintly on the hill like it had been waiting for them. Inside, the rooms looked clean. Too clean, like a stage set. Not a single sound except the creaking of the floor. The moment the door slammed behind them, the air seemed to thicken. Then it appeared. At first they thought it was one of them. A friend. Familiar. But when it smiled, the truth snapped their reality in half. Teeth too sharp, eyes too black. It was tall and thin, all elbows and knees. Its voice was like all of their voices at once, whispering, "I'm so glad you came." The terror began. One of the girls screamed as the figure stepped forward. It didn't kill her fast. No, it leaned in close, pressing its face against hers, and then it started pulling. Not flesh, not bone, but something deeper. A pale mist, the color of her breath on a winter day, was ripped from her mouth. Her body convulsed, eyes rolling back. The others watched in paralyzed horror as she crumpled to the floor, her skin gray and lifeless. Then it turned to the next. The boys tried to fight, chairs thrown, fists swinging, curses shouted. None of it mattered. It moved like smoke, slipping past their strikes, wrapping them in its arms like a lover. One by one, it drank from them. Not just their blood, but their souls. Each scream grew weaker, until silence swallowed the room. By the 4th victim, the last 2 realized they weren't going to win. "Run!" someone shouted. Only one listened. Daniel. He bolted, not looking back as his best friend's voice broke into a final, desperate cry. He barreled through the back door, crashing into the cold night air. The hill was steep, the ground muddy from earlier rain, but he didn't care. He ran until his legs burned, until his throat tore raw from screaming. Behind him, faintly, he could hear it. Laughter. 7 voices blended into one. At the bottom of the hill, headlights appeared. A truck. He threw himself into the road, waving his arms like a madman. The driver slammed the brakes, cursing, but Daniel didn't stop. He clawed at the door, begging, get me out now." The driver pulled him in, eyes wide with shock. Daniel looked back just once, up at the hill. The house windows glowed faint red, pulsing, like a heartbeat. And in the far distance, silhouetted against the light, he swore he saw them. His friends, standing at the window. But Daniel knew the truth. They weren't his friends anymore. It's called an Ambal, which means protector. But don't let the name fool you. If your door is left open at midnight, it slips inside. You won't see it cross the threshold, but you'll feel it. A cold pressure in the corner of your bedroom. Eyes too many, watching. Fingers thin as twigs, twitching like they want something from you. It doesn't move, doesn't speak, but if it's there, people whisper you're done. Families vanish. Rooms go silent. Even the walls seem to hold their breath. Yet the truth is worse and stranger. The Ambal isn't the danger. Something far darker hunts the village, taking families whole. The Ambal waits in the corner, guarding, keeping it at bay. There's a price. It doesn't ask for gold or silver. It asks for pieces of life you hold dear. Memories, laughter, happiness. When dawn comes, you wake, Your family is alive, your home untouched. But something small and precious is gone. A song you used to hum, a memory you treasured. It protects, it terrifies, and it always takes something in exchange. They say the Ambal chooses what it takes, a piece of a child's laughter echoing in the hallway, a lover's whispered secret, the taste of fresh bread from the oven, the feel of sunshine on your skin, the sound of rain, the smell of the forest, the touch of a friendly hand. These are the things that make life worth living. The Ambal slips inside and steals one of those things from you while you sleep. Some say the Ambal is a lonely creature, a spirit of the mountains who wanders the villages at night, taking only what it needs to survive. Others say it's a tricksy imp, a demon who feeds on human emotions, growing stronger with each memory it steals. The truth is, no one knows where the Ambal came from, or why it takes what it takes. But the villagers know this. Whatever the cost, they'd rather pay it than lose everything. For some, that price is too high. They leave the village, never looking back. Others stay, hiding their memories and hoping for the best. And then there are those who bargain with the Ambal, offering it something worthless in exchange for something precious. They say the Ambal can be reasoned with, that it has its own sense of right and wrong. But that's just a fairy tale. There is no reasoning with the Ambal. There is no winning the Ambal over. All we know is this: when the Ambal comes calling, you had better have something ready to give it, because whatever it asks for, it will take. The story I'm about to tell you is one of those stories that sends shivers down my spine even now, even though I know the tale well. There are places like this, you see. Places where secrets linger, and some say the veil between our world and the next is paper thin. Such a place exists in a small village, tucked away between rolling hills and thick, dark forests. The villagers rarely spoke of it unless they were sharing ghost stories around dying fires, and then they called it the Devourer. But most people in the world would have known it by another name: Whisperwood School. It was a huge place, full of students, dozens, maybe hundreds, but its size was deceiving because within those high gray walls, something terrible happened. Something that turned a place of learning into a hunting ground. Every term, every semester, some students vanished. Not officially, not publicly, just disappeared. One moment they were there, laughing, playing, studying, and the next moment they were gone, as if the earth itself had swallowed them whole. There were rumors, of course, whispers in the corridors, hushed voices in the staff room. Some said the teachers knew about the disappearances, that they were somehow involved. Others said the headmaster had made a pact with something ancient, something evil that lived in the shadows of the school. They said it was the headmaster who opened the door to this horror and invited it in. But what did he get in return? Was it power? Was it knowledge? Or was it simply an exchange of souls? The worst place in Whisperwood was the dormitories. At night, the dormitories fell silent. As the other students slept, unaware of the danger that lurked outside their doors, the silence became a living thing, pressing against their ears, coiling around their throats, squeezing the breath from their lungs. At first, it would be nothing more than a soft knock. 1, 2, sometimes 3 gentle taps against your door, the kind of knock that makes your heart thump so hard it sounds like the only sound in the world. But the knock didn't stop there. If you were one of the few still awake while the others slept, it would call your name. A voice familiar. Almost too familiar. Maybe it sounded like your mother, calling from the kitchen. Maybe your father, whispering from the hall. Sometimes your sister, soft and coaxing. Or your brother, laughing the way only he could. It would call, and if you answered, you had already lost. Your soul was taken quietly, invisibly, leaving no marks, no evidence. The next morning, no one would see anything wrong, except that the student who had answered was gone, vanished without a trace. And no one ever knew how they died, But the knock didn't always come for the same person. Sometimes it chose the strongest, sometimes the weakest, sometimes it seemed to choose at random. Those who survived the semester often bore the scars deep within them, the memory of that knock, the echo of their name being called, the silhouette of the door against the moonlight. There were rules in Whisperwood, rules as old as the darkness that seeped through the cracks in the walls. Rule number 1, don't answer the knock. Stay silent, hide under your blankets, pretend that the world outside the dormitory walls doesn't exist. But the knock would come back. That much was certain. The knocks would come 3 times. That was the rule. 3 times the knock would come. 3 times the voice would call your name. And after the 3rd knock, it would leave you alone until the next semester when it came back for more. One by one, the students succumbed to the whispers in the corridors, to the tales of disappearing classmates. Some stayed awake in groups, daring each other to keep quiet. Others barricaded their doors with desks and chairs, forming uneasy alliances with their neighbors. Still, others tried to answer the knock with whispers, trying to fool the entity that lurked outside their doors. But no one knew the real rules. No one could bargain with an unseen terror. And the game continued. For decades, Whisperwood School stood as a monument to fear. Its dormitories echoed with the whispers of countless victims, and at the stroke of every midnight, the entity stalked its halls, knocking on doors, calling names, collecting souls,